Okay, that's not the point of this whole thing, so.
How many people do you have?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out. I mean, we had about 50 people show up to that thing. Yeah.
Were they all businesses?
Some people were just new to town and they, just a little bit, but we have that like friend of the chamber that you don't have to own a bit, So we're gonna do like we're gonna get through block party season and then I think we're gonna do like a kind of like a holiday mixer one last and then plan lunch and learns and start like kind of doing that stuff. But I need somebody to, LR showed up. He's gonna like help with the website stuff. Yeah. He's like, I guess I got roped into it. I'm like, we all did, dude. Yeah. Tom. We need Tom back in here. He's coming, right? He's not coming? Oh no. Did you know Tom's out of town?
What?
Alexis just said Tom's out of town.
He's not for sure.
No, because we had Yeah. Oh no.
Where is he?
I guess out of town. Yeah, because we had 3 call in today, so we don't even have a quorum.
So I can get somebody online.
Yeah, can. Yeah, he didn't let any of us know that he was.
It's so unusual for him, isn't it?
Eli, I don't know why he called in, but he talked to Katie. Brenna is in Alamosa at work. She cannot get home. Apparently they're keeping her there. No. And then Kristen's little daughter had a medical, like she gashed her head open, has a concussion, had to get staples put in her head. She was freaked. Yeah. Yeah, this afternoon. I don't know. She's like, I'm sorry. She's like, it screwed me up. She's like, I was terrified. I was like, no, I'm sure you. God dang it. Well, and we reached out to him. He didn't respond either on the email. Yeah, text me. Just let someone know. I think Brenna will be able to call in. Yeah. Oh, Kristen? Okay, Kristen's gonna run down.
Sounds good.
Oh man.
He made it.
I was like stressed for these people trying to get their finals.
Thanks for sending that email. Thank you. He's gonna teach me how to do a lot of things.
I have no idea.
It's quick.
Wow.
Good to see you.
Hey, how are you? Good. Yeah, we heard the tankers flying over our house. Yeah, it's about 50 miles from here.
Seems close.
Yeah. Pagos.
Ashley, you just want to announce we're waiting for.
Yeah, so we're just waiting for a quorum, folks. We'll get going here as soon as we get another board member.
Is she coming or is she gonna be on Zoom?
She's gonna get her, throw some clothes on and get here. I mean, she's probably dressed, but. Some boardroom clothes.
I have us on mute right now.
I did one time, yeah, one time
Oh, so glad.
That's neat stuff, the way, I think my regular meetings are better.
In context, right?
He's not, I think he's not coming. Kristen's on her way. So we're just gonna wait. Well, we'll have a quorum.
You will have,
With Tom? Yeah. He probably didn't want to recuse himself multiple times tonight.
So we have fun here. Like calls me.
Yeah, there's a 7-member board here. There's 7 members here. During only has 5, so you have more chance of having a quorum.
What do I do with this? What do I do here?
I'm pretty busy here.
Some of that URA stuff, some of people trying to do stuff.
Right, yeah, and they were doing that when I left.
I think he's told some of the staff
Yeah.
he's leaving at the end.
Sometimes staff will reach out and they bounce things off each
I was like, we
other.
cannot cancel this
But he's
meeting.
not gonna tell the board.
Maybe talking about trying to do like regional planning.
Staff knows it, and I'm just like, staff.
Bayfield has a plan.
Tell them.
Just talking regionally on projects and stuff going on, because everything impacts everything, so. So we'll see.
Information, just so everyone knows that it's gonna change the outcome.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm just sharing ideas as things come up.
Nicole, are you doing there's somebody in the waiting room.
So give you some head notice. Okay, well, call it back. Sorry. I ain't gonna. No, I wouldn't get it. I got my house. That's a,
As long as it took me to that house.
we can't buy it. And that's the issue. The last board wouldn't want to do affordable housing, and they have creative districts. They have property, the whole thing, man.
I sent the plat on Thursday to get recorded for the annexation. So I'm sure I'll get something back maybe this week or next week. So I'll forward it to you guys when I receive it.
Walk and check out our fence.
I did not see it. I heard about it.
Oh, okay.
Because I talked to you. I haven't seen it.
Looks good.
Okay.
Really does. Came out nice.
I'll go, yeah, I'll go look.
You live in that area, then, right? Okay, great.
Yeah. Not too far.
You can look over at the fence every once in a while and see them.
Yeah.
The fence in.
I've done it twice. I'm like, what are you guys doing out there? What's going on out there?
Well, I came a couple of weeks ago and I just drove real quickly and all of a sudden I see someone drilling, drilling in, and I'm going, I got on the phone and I said, there's someone on our property doing some drilling. Well, it was a soil test. Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Yeah, but I'm
geotech.
going, I didn't.
Can they hear
think
us
that was
online?
Supposed to be on.
So they've done their,
They've done the drilling. I haven't
okay,
seen the report.
okay.
The ones that just joined us online, can they hear us?
It was 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I was-
So for those of you who just joined us online, we are waiting for a quorum. We do have a board
You're
member.
muted, hold on.
Oh. So for those of you that just joined us online, we are waiting for a quorum. We should be starting this meeting here very soon. You don't have to get all quiet. You can. I didn't bang the gavel yet, so we're okay. Oh, you saved the day. We didn't know Tom. We didn't know Tom was out too. You need to plug in.
Again, I don't care. I have it angled as much down as I can. But it's just, oh my God. Because then the camera itself, the house, the camera is the way I do it. It's coming down so far where the camera's really hitting.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being patient. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order, dated Tuesday, May 17th, 2022. It is now 6:41. Roll call.
Trustee Ah. Trustee Dallison here. Trustee Harts. Here. Trustee Luke. Trustee Moreland. Trustee Cesaro.
Here.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Here.
4 present, 3 absent.
All right, would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, does the board have any conflicts of interest to disclose at this time? Seeing none, we will move on to general public input. If anybody in the audience would like to address the board, you would have 3 minutes.
Hello, trustees. Let's see. Cat Katzos, 525 Gum Ranch Road. So this is when we speak about anything on the agenda item, right?
So we will hit those items when it comes time at the agenda, on the
So
agenda.
not right this moment, because it said agenda items, so I thought. you
Yeah,
guys were
I'll
doing
bring
it.
those up during each section of the agenda.
Great, I will wait,
Okay.
now that you know who I am. Hello, want to guess my name? I'm Phyllis Ludwig, 9205 County Road 521. First, I would like to thank Kristen for her liaisonship with the Senior Center. We enjoyed having you, Kristen, and we want to welcome Lori. She did a great job the other day. And we enjoyed having Katie and Becky and Tom Awe. And who else do we have, Katie, there at the meeting? Is that all?
Yes.
Yeah. But I think we accomplished a few things there. And also, I need to let Katie know that the toilet in the women's room is fixed. My husband spent $9.16 today and went and fixed it. So I thought I'd let you know that, save you some money. Thank you.
Thanks, Phyllis.
Hi, my name is Lucy Stewart. I live at 128 North Appaloosa in Bayfield. And I know our trash has been a mess, but my one concern is that our trash is so full that it's overflowing. I know trash day is Thursday. We don't get it picked up till Saturday, sometimes in late Saturday afternoon. I know that there's issues, but my concern is at some point, I think they're going to start saying, hey, your trash is overfull. There's trash bags by your trash, and because it's not in the receptacle, we can't pick it up. And I just think that, I know it's hard to keep employees, it's hard to hire employees, especially with CDLs, but I think maybe you guys are already working on it. I would just like to see that you guys keep track on it, because we had issues last year already, before this even started. So, you know, I just would appreciate whatever you guys can do to get us back on cycle and get our trash picked up. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom? Okay, we will move on. Did everybody get a chance to, sorry, oh, we're gonna have, sorry, no, we're gonna do the agenda. Did everybody get a chance to look at the agenda? I would entertain a motion to approve it as presented.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Dallison,
Yes.
Trustee Harts,
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
and Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
And Attorney Goldman, do you want to have this discussion tonight, or do we want to wait till the full board is here?
Whatever you feel is best.
I think it would be good to hit on it, because I think it was an incident that took place at the senior center for that meeting.
Okay.
But I think it's a conversation that we'll have to probably have again when the rest of the board is here.
I don't know that it's a conversation, it's just a reminder.
Okay.
And we can do it on a couple of occasions. But as Ms. Ludwig pointed out, there was a meeting at the senior center last week, and 3 trustees showed up for that meeting. And as you guys are all likely aware, but just as a reminder, Colorado State Statute 246402 mandates that if and when there is a quorum or a majority of the trustees that show up at some meeting, separate and apart from a noticed meeting, whereby policy or regulations or something formal can be adopted, that that is what is referred to as a formal meeting that requires notice 24 hours in advance and minutes to be taken. So just, again, keep that in mind when you are attending or planning on attending other meetings that you might want to participate in. And you might want to give either Kathy or Katie heads up in advance that you're planning on meetings so that they can suggest to you whether or not other people have showed an interest, and then perhaps picking the two people that would best represent the town to be at that meeting. So just a heads up, and just be mindful of that.
So I have a question about that. If I'm attending that meeting as a senior and not a board member, the rule still applies.
It would still apply. I think it's better to be err on the safe side.
Mhm.
That even though you're there in one capacity and not necessarily your capacity as a trustee, if you know that others might be interested, it might be, again, important or a good idea to let Ms. Sickles know or Ms. Cathcart so that they can issue notice, which is something that can be done.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Doesn't mean that you can attend. It's just we need to make sure that we have all our statutory ducks in a row.
I understand.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you, Attorney Goldman.
Thank you.
Did everybody get a chance to look over the minutes from May 3rd?
Yes, I did, and I would make a motion to approve the regular meeting, May 3rd, 2022 minutes as presented by the town clerk.
And I'd second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, we're moving on to our reports. I know Becky is not here, but I have one concern about the bathrooms. I mean, those are two very highly utilized parks in the summer. So,
I'll talk to her about opening them. I think the porta potties were there basically just through the soccer match and.
This is at Little Piney, and it said that the company didn't want to bring the.
No, the company does not want to bring to Little Piney.
Okay.
Little Piney, what they're doing is basically vandalizing it to the extreme position that we will have to find another Porta-John company that will supply that. But the biggest issue has been vandalism and enough that this vendor will no longer set them there.
Yeah, it was really bad last year.
Yeah, but I mean, that's so unfortunate and tragic. I just wonder what happens if there's no bathrooms because of how many people are utilizing those parks.
I agree. Yeah.
The only thing you can come up with is some other means of a restroom, and whether it's the Forest Service style of restroom that you can't really bust many things, but that requires construction and a capital improvement. So that's your call as a board if you would like for us to consider that. I do know that those Forest Service style of restrooms, you can buy them, and they will travel. However, in this shortage of supplies and everything else, I'm just curious of how long it would take. So,
I mean, I think that's worthy of a discussion down the road because that's.
Either that or you build them and they're connected to water and sewer, and keep in mind that we have to watch it for the same purpose.
Okay. Katie, would you like to highlight your report?
Yes. So we've been working on the yard sale, block parties, and the July 4th events, putting basically together all those forms. And if anybody would like their yard sale on a map that the town will put up on Facebook and provide just before, probably that Thursday before the yard sale, make sure that you email events@bayfieldgov.org, and we'll put that information on the map. And I know that we've made some changes. Most of them had to do last year, or the 2 years ago, there was no 4th of July events. And last year we only had one block party event. But we're changing some things based on safety. This has been a team effort through all the department heads. We have purchased some capital improvements regarding barriers so that they can be easily put in and then filled with water and then moved again. But we're not going to make any concessions on safety. So I realize that there's going to be some differences as we get back into block parties. I think that's going to be our main concern. And we're certainly hoping that it's just a fun event and safe event for everybody as well. Staff and I, Becky and I will be meeting with the county senior services, basically just to talk about some of the issues that came up at our last Pine River Senior Citizen Board meeting. And I think the Southwest COG continues. I get officials wanting to make sure that we don't have any issues with them merging with Region 9. And I really don't have any concerns. All the regions I've worked in, this is pretty common. So, I'm in favor of it, but I guess if there's anybody else that has concerns, the Southwest COG still has to retain its government status. There's certain reasons for that. But anyway, I just want to make sure that there's nothing that you may have. I have a very talented, best and brightest intern that will be visiting on the 19th. And I certainly hope that she is inspired by Bayfield. Of course, we'll be talking about housing and some other issues on the 19th. Cinnamon Heights, we are getting closer and closer to a finished site plan. We did talk to the architect, and we'll talk about ADA accessibility and adaptability, some issues about, the status and basically our funding difference and how we provide that accessibility for ADA has been kind of an interesting discussion. So we'll get more on that here in the next couple months. And then, it's summer. It's almost summertime. So that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
All right, does the board have any questions for Katie? All right, Nicole.
Hello, good evening. So just a couple things I'll highlight. I've been doing some presentations to different groups in the community about the current development projects we have going on and number of units that could be coming down and number of students. I went to the school board and we talked about that. So just wanted to give you a heads up on those. We did submit for the MMOF grant, the multimodal pedestrian crossing across Highway 160. So that was due last Monday, and we should hopefully hear something by June 9th if we get the grant. There's also Project Moxie's working with NENA, which is Neighbors in Need Alliance, on a countywide unhoused survey. And we know that the unhoused look a little bit different in Durango than they do in Bayfield, but we still do have unhoused. And so they're talking with doing the Pine River Shares, going to one of their days where they do hand out food and just setting up a table, and it would be a voluntary survey, anonymous survey, just to understand where people are staying, what some of their housing issues are in the community, so we get a better idea of what we have going on in Bayfield. And they'll be handing out free Visa gift cards to those that are willing to share information. So hopefully in the next couple weeks that will be happening. They're trying to do this throughout the month of May in the county. Also, wayfinding signs. The town did adopt a wayfinding sign program back in 2017, which our sign off Highway 160 is consistent with this sign program. And we were recently reached out to by Pueblo Community College about trying to put in some directional signs. And so Katie and I talked and looked at it as an opportunity to maybe get some town wayfinding and share those signs with Pueblo. And we'll probably reach out to some other groups in the community, maybe the senior center, and try and get some wayfinding signs throughout the community, and also looking at grant opportunities to help pay for those signs. So we'll keep you posted on that, but that would be exciting to see some nice looking signs directing people to our community facilities throughout Bayfield. And then the last thing is just a reminder that we're having a joint planning commission and board of trustees work session on May 31st, so that's Tuesday after Memorial Day. It'll be here in the boardroom at 6:30. The public is invited to attend. We will have it on Zoom as well. And so the majority of the meeting will be just a discussion between the planning commission, the board of trustees, and staff on a lot of our long-range planning projects, including the comp plan, the Parks and Rec master plan, the land use code, and water planning that we're working on. And then towards the end of the meeting, we will have the opportunity for the public to offer input and ask questions at the end of the meeting. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that that's going to be going on. And that packet will be going out this week with some handouts and the agenda for the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Nicole. Does the board have any questions for Nicole? All right, moving on to our financial agenda items. Do we have any general public input pertaining to our financial agenda items 3A or B? Seeing none, Kathy.
Okay, at the end of April, 33% of 2022 had lapsed. You'll notice that in all the funds that the cost of natural gas is higher than expected, as well as the computer and IT expenses. And that's just something out of our control that's going to happen the rest of the year. Payments to CIRSA for workers' compensation and property casualty insurance have been made for the first half of 2022. In the street fund, the natural gas franchise fee that has been received is actually our franchise fee for 2021. We won't see 2022s until the beginning of 2023. Let's see, what else? Oh, and we have been notified by email from the Deputy Secretary of the Treasury that they have started issuing the second round of the ARPA funds, ARPA payments, and we should receive our second payment of $337,940 sometime in the near future. Some governments have started seeing their payments, so we should be able to see ours here shortly. And that's all I have on the financial statement.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Kathy on the financials?
Oh, I might mention too that I included in the packet a memo outlining the progress of the bank account for Cala Trust, the consolidation. And those accounts have been consolidated and the ones that needed to be closed have been closed. The only account that we have open that still needs to be closed is the second account at TBK. We just finished getting all the automatic ACHs converted to the other account. So I've got one more left to do, and that's the state sales tax deposit. As soon as I can talk to someone at the state and get that fixed, then we'll be ready to close that account as well.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion at this time.
Madam Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the April 2022 financial statement as presented by the Finance Director.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, sales tax.
So you do have a new sales tax report in front of you, and so we're, this is, a lot of this is Excel. We do this in Excel, and of course, I've had, several years of training in Excel, so it's just basically that communication. So I apologize for some of the errors in the past, but we'll get this done. Kathy's doing a really great job getting this out, so.
Okay. All right, at this time, I will go ahead and close the regular meeting and open up the public hearings. And Nicole, you want to kick that off?
I will. Let me share my screen. All right, so our first public hearing is the Marlin Village PUD final plan. And so this item has been in front of you a few times now. So I'm going to go through some of the slides quickly, and then I have a couple things that the board needs to weigh in on as part of your motion later. Let's see. So first is just location, again, directly west of here on the other side of the river, was annexed into the town of Bayfield. So the annexation went through, or they did a comprehensive plan amendment first, and then the annexation went through at the end of '21, and they've gone through a 3-step process: their sketch plan, their preliminary plan, and so the final plan only comes before the Board of Trustees. This one, you'll see it's a little different. There's either a final plan and plat, or just a final plan. And in the case of this project, they are not subdividing, so you're not going to see a plat as part of this. So it's just the final plan process. So the final plan, we look at all the final drawings, the final technical plans and reports, and working with the applicants through all of those. And just to reiterate, this project is 15 tiny home spaces. They are going to stay on wheels. The property will remain under one ownership of the heads. The spaces will be generally 40 by 25 feet. There's going to be one that's a little bit smaller because of the king ditch. The tiny homes will be owner occupied, so they can't sublet them or do vacation rentals in them. They're going to provide covered storage, and if the tiny homes wants a little storage near their tiny home, it needs to be covered and enclosed as well, so they don't want a lot of storage just exposed. They're going to require skirting for all the tiny homes, 2 parking spaces each with some additional guest parking. They're going to xeriscape the property with a few trees. They're going to have a community garden and a pavilion with tables and grills. And this one's just a little unique for us on how we would issue permits, so they wouldn't get a regular building permit. We call them mobile home permits for these projects. And so they either have to be built in Bayfield where our inspector can do the inspections, or we require a third-party inspection before we would issue them a mobile home permit once they come to the property. So just a little bit different than what we would normally see for a project. So that's just the site plan, and I did make copies, large copies, so you all can see that a little clearer. And then their 3D rendering. So this is the one where it would be good to get some direction or a decision from the board during your motion. But what they've asked for is right now, per our parkland dedication and park facility impact fees, which if you recall, we just brought to you for the ordinance and resolution. So they would need to either pay $11,640 for the land dedication or provide 0.6 acres, and then the facilities $4,200. And they've actually proposed to dedicate some open space in lieu of paying both of those fees. Right now, the town owns, I don't know if you can see my pointer. So the town owns that big piece that's kind of northeast of this, the pink area that I highlighted, as open space. And so this would be attached to the town's current open space. If the board is interested in accepting that dedication versus requiring them to pay the land dedication fee and the facility fee. And so we'll make sure that it's 0.6 acres or more, depending on how that draws up. It'll be below their slope, so it's an area that they're not using. It's area that has wetlands down in there, and so town staff's discussed it, and we all feel like the land's probably more valuable to us, combining it with our existing open space than getting that fee. But again, that's the board's decision, so when we can talk about that when you get to that motion if you're interested in accepting that dedication. Otherwise, these findings and conditions are the same that's in your packet, and they're up on here if you want me to refer to those when you guys get to your motion. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Nicole?
No.
No.
I know that applicant is here. Do you have any?
Good evening. Steve Pavlik, 3520 Bennett Street, Durango, Colorado. I'm the civil engineer on the project. We don't have a formal presentation. I know it's been through the board a few times, but I'm happy to answer any questions, and Linda and Mark Head are here as well if there's any questions that I can't answer.
Does the board have any questions at this time? All right, at this time, I'll open it up for public input. taking notes. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Jim Tenza. I live at 351 Hilltop North Drive in Bayfield, out in the sticks. I was on the County Planning Commission for 9 years, and I'm also a small business owner here in Bayfield, and I can tell you that projects that produce places for people to live if they want to work in Bayfield are really a great idea. Utilize the space well. You know, it's the new thing, the tiny home. I'll tell you a quick story on tiny homes. When I was on the commission, I was out in the 300s looking at a project, and I drove by this tiny home on my way and came back, and I stopped and I looked, this little tiny home over there with a 3-car garage next to it. And I went, this is strange. About 2 months later, the lady who owns it was at one of the public meetings. And I said, do you own that tiny home out there? Yeah. I said, what's with the 3-car garage? Well, you got to have someplace to store stuff. Anyway, if you can see your way to approving this, I think it'd be a good fix for Bayfield.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, the board has no follow-up questions or concerns? No. All right, we will move on to our next public hearing.
Share my screen again. All right, so this one again, you've also seen a few times, Mustang Crossing. This is subdivision, phase 1, subdivision final plan plat. So again, this has that plat because they are doing a subdivision. So they've divided their project, which is originally 35 acres and 81 single-family lots, and so they've divided it into 2 phases. This project has gone through from the comprehensive plan amendment to annexation and then this 3-step process. Because they're doing the final plan for phase 1, there will be a final plan plat for phase 2 in the future, so you will see this again when that second phase comes back. Again, going through final plan, drawings, plans, reports, making sure we have everything we need to be able to give final approval for the project. So this project, phase 1, is 47 lots and approximately 19.03 acres. Phase 2 will be 34 lots and approximately 15.98 acres. They're also they're actually creating 6.4 acres of open space that will remain under the HOA and the property ownership of the Mustang Crossing owners. So, but they'll have a pocket park in that, detention facility, shared use path, and open space buffering. So this is the full plan, and you can see that the gray area on the east side is that phase 2, and so this just shows the phase 1 plat that we're currently reviewing tonight. There's a couple things on this one that, again, the board will need to weigh in on when it comes to your motions. And the first one is the Bayfield Parkway Clover Drive intersection improvements. So staff did find that in 2018, Russell Planning Engineering, which is now SEH, did a traffic impact report for Clover Meadows Phase 7. And as part of that, they reviewed the Bayfield Parkway and Clover Drive intersection, and it was warranted that there's a left turn lane needed off of Bayfield Parkway onto Clover Drive. And so the town worked with them on a cost estimate, 2018 cost estimate, which we know at this point is outdated, probably quite a bit outdated, just the way things have changed in the last 2 years. And then Clover 7's subdivision improvement agreement actually already had an increase from that original cost estimate. And so what the cost estimate that the Clover Meadows Phase 7 came up with was $311,446. And so that's all we really have right now, so that's kind of what we're using. And so what Clover Meadows Phase 7 did is their percentage of increase that they are putting onto that intersection, they are paying a percentage of that increase towards that intersection improvement, which we're putting into an account. They paid 10% of it, and then all the property owners who purchased lots within Clover 7 are paying the difference the other 90%, which is being taken out at closing by the towel company and then transferred to the town. And so they agreed to pay $35,000 towards that. And so Mustang Crossing has agreed to participate in that intersection with their share, but they're also asking to have the same deal that Clover 7 had as part of their subdivision improvement agreement, which is pay the 10% and then the 90% go on to the property owners. So that's something that the board will need to weigh in on. The
And
second.
again, if I might interrupt, Nicole, the weighing in has to do with whether.
The decision.
And the decision by the trustees as to whether or not, as part of the subdivision improvement agreements, the developer needs to put up 100% of
their share
on the improvements, the public improvements, or to accept the developer's proposal of just putting up 10%.
Correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
just wanted to be
Yeah,
clear.
thank you for that. And then the second one is collateral. So when we do a project in Bayfield, we do, per our code, require them to put up a collateral. Usually it's a letter of credit or a bond, some sort of surety for the public improvements. And so this is the streets, the sidewalks, stormwater. In this case, their stormwater is going to be private, but sewer mains, water mains. So anything that's going to become a public, street signs, a public improvement, they would need to create an engineering cost estimate and go out and provide us a letter of credit. Normally, we require 100% of that cost estimate to be included in that letter of credit. Now, again, Clover Phase 7, there were some negotiations with the board at that time and that developer to only pay $300,000 in collateral rather than the $1.6 million that the public improvements cost. I would say in this case, staff is concerned about this because I'll give you like a hypothetical. If a developer starts a project, they've dug up the roads, you know, the roads are dedicated on the plat to the town, they're trying to put in infrastructure, and then for some reason they walk away and the town's left with this half completed project, town can pool that letter of credit, take that funding, pay someone else to go in and finish those improvements and get them to town standards. And so in this case, for Clover 7, for example, $1.6 million was the cost of public improvements and we got $300,000 collateral, which means if we were stuck with something, we probably wouldn't have been able to afford it. And then we'd have to go back and try and work with the developer at that time who, for some reason, has walked away or is not able to complete the project and try and get them to pay for the rest of it. So we feel like that puts the town in a situation that is not ideal. And so normally we would ask for the 100% of that through a letter of credit or a bond. There's options that the code gives the developer. And so in this case, Mustang Crossing is asking to do what Clover 7 got, which is pay the $300,000 collateral. I don't have their final cost estimate. But they are the total project. So Phase 1 is probably comparable to Clover 7. With Phase 2, they'd be almost twice the size. And so, and again, costs have gone up since Clover 7 put in the infrastructure. So again, something that we're concerned on this one specifically is that we're not going to have a lot of collateral in case there's something the town has to get involved in through that process. And then the final one is the water conversion fee. So right now we have Wright Engineering, which is the town's water engineers, looking at the water rights transfers for Mustang Crossing, as well as what the conversion fee is. And that conversion fee covers what it takes for the town to convert it from ag water to municipal or urban water so that we can use that with our municipal system. And so there is a fee. Again, we don't have that amount right now. Clover 7 did pay $31,000. We don't know what that percentage is, but the property owner, the thing that the Mustang Crossing wants to do is whatever their requirement is to pay, they want to pay 10% and then have that 90% also put on the properties at closing. And so they're not necessarily saying they're going to pay $31,000 because we don't know what their amount is. All they're asking for is to pay the 10% up front and then put the rest on the properties at closing time. So those three things we're going to need the board to make decisions on. as part of your motion. And we can go back through those when we get to that point. And otherwise, I just wanted to point out, subdivision improvement agreement is what we're working with them on, and that's where all this data, this information that I just covered is going to be located. We do get this document recorded, and our code does talk about that surety, that collateral, and that it is negotiated with the Board of Trustees, so they can ask you and you can work with them on that per our code. It does talk, though, about the developer shall provide for the construction at no cost to the town of traffic signalization, utilities, and other public infrastructure as required by the Board of Trustees, and provide bonding or other security needed to ensure such improvements as required by the board. So again, the $300,000 will not ensure that all those improvements are going to get covered per that surety. And it also talks about the types of surety that they can do. So letter of credit, cash, and so there's other different options they can do, like I said, a bond. So there's different things. But again, staff's pretty concerned about not getting the full amount in that surety. And so I just wanted to provide you a couple sections of the code. And then again, just to wrap up, findings and conditions, which are stated in your packet, and a possible motion. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have right now, and I know the applicants are present as well.
I have a question, or questions. So I was not here for the Clover 7 discussions, so I'm not sure what the negotiations were there. So comparing what's to do what they did in Clover 7, I don't know what the benefit to the town was at that time. And when I'm looking at this, if we agree to 300,000 versus 1.6 million, 31,000 versus whatever, or I'm not even understanding the developer pays 10% and then the owner pays 90% at closing. I'd like to know how in every one of these scenarios, what is the benefit to the town for agreeing to do this? And I don't want to compare to Clover 7. I don't know what that negotiation was.
So again, the two things they're asking for, the intersection improvements and the water conversion fee, those two, what they're asking for is that they pay 10% up front, and then that 90% is divided up amongst all the lots when they sell later in the process. So from the town's perspective, it's still going to get paid. It's just how it gets paid. If the developer paid it all up front, so they pay the whole 100% of their parkway improvements as well as their water conversion, then ultimately they probably are still putting it down onto the property owners when they sell the lots. But in this case, they're saying we only want to pay the 10% of what we owe, and then that 90% will be spread out. It's still going to be collected by the town. So I think it's really just how we get the money. The property owners are still probably ultimately the end payer. But in this case, they're paying it through their closing and a title versus through the higher purchase price of their lot. So that's, I mean, and unless the other staff has any other thoughts, that one it's probably not as concerning for us, except that usually we like to see the developer pay their share, but in this case,
it's paid.
coming out of that development. I think the bigger one is the collateral for staff.
Couldn't it be, though? I mean, why do we have to be a part of waiting for that 90%? If the developer pays 100%, then they can collect the 90% or 100% when the lot sells. So
Correct.
I'm not seeing, because we might need to be making these improvements or doing the water conversion before all those lots sell. So now we are waiting to get that money back, whereas why are we waiting? Like that's why maybe this is common practice. That's I guess what I'm looking for. I'm just not understanding why we have to wait for the lots to sell to get the money to do these improvements.
I would say from a staff perspective, it's not ideal. It would be better to get it up front and not have to wait for the title company to collect it and then we get it. And I mean, that just adds a little, I would say a lot more on the administrative side of the town staff to take that money and then put it in the right account at 81 times versus up front. So
I just don't see the benefit to the town to do it that way.
And Lori, to add to that, I was here for Clover 7, and we were in a lot of ways, given an ultimatum that the developer was not going to continue if we didn't give them some leeway on that kind of thing, because they couldn't afford it
Okay.
up front, and so that's why the board ended up giving some leeway on it then. But the town was in a much different position then. I mean, we hadn't had any development happening in Bayfield in a very long time, and so it was negotiated over many meetings,
Okay.
and the board still had the same reservations that we have now, and it was just happened on happenstance, you know, just.
Okay. No, I'm not saying anyone did anything wrong. I'm just saying I wasn't a part of that conversation, so I don't know how to compare.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was the town was in a much different position, and they were contemplating backing out of the deal. And so we were giving them some leeway.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, please tell us why this one is the one that's actually more concerning.
Again, this one is the most concerning because we would want to get some sort of surety for 100% of the public improvements, not $300,000 of the public improvements, because that could put the town in a financial situation if something happened with the project. Not to say it's common, it's not very common for projects to not complete, but you don't know what the circumstances could be, and that would put the town in a hardship.
And there is a history in the town of Bayfield where a developer did not complete a project, and the town was expected to try and complete it, and there were no funds, and there's still issues whether or not the town is responsible for the completion of that subdivision. So there is history.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we can have the applicant step forward.
Paul O'Neill, SEH 934 Main Avenue, Durango, Colorado. Sorry, my voice is a little scratchy. Again, like the previous project, we don't have a formal presentation. We feel like you guys understand what's going on fairly well. The developer, Glenn Moselle and Jeff Jorgensen are here to answer questions as well. So happy to answer any questions you guys might have. One thing I might bring up, then I'll let them speak more to the finances, that's their department. But some of the benefit could be in delaying some of those costs, are the potential to keep costs down for the overall project, which then could relate to lot prices. The more and more money we have that has to be put up front, the more expensive and the more you need to make it up on the back end. Where if those costs are spread out over time, you don't have that big upfront cost to cover everything.
If I may.
Yes.
There are, with regards to alternative action A, there are 2 findings and 6 conditions that the town has proposed for the board. Has the applicant reviewed those findings and conditions?
Yes, we have.
And is the applicant amenable to them?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure it was on the record.
Thank you.
Does developer want to have anything to say at this time?
I'm Jeff Jorgensen. I am the managing partner in J-Bar Development, and I'm a partner, obviously, with Glenn on this Mustang Crossing development. I've been mainly the financial side of the picture, the capital partner, as he likes to call me from time to time. So I don't know a lot of the details, but I do want to thank you and the staff for allowing us to have this project come to fruition. It's been, I think, a very smooth transition of getting the thing in place, so we thank you very much for that. Happy to answer any questions, or Glenn, if he needs to. Okay.
Does the board have any questions?
I have a question, but I'm not sure who it goes to. It's regarding the plat and the perimeter trail that was going to be on there. So that's okay. So sorry. Because I'm looking in the general dedications, and am I seeing it in there where it's dedicated that there's going to be that land around the perimeter for a trail? Because I'm not reading that here, and I have read that specifically in other plats that I've reviewed. And I know it would be managed by the HOA or whatever that is, but I don't see it in the general dedication that that's in there at all. And perhaps I'm not reading this right. I'm not a professional on this.
I didn't prepare the plat. The plat was prepared by Pinnacle Land Surveying. That land will need to be dedicated to the HOA. The tracks that are called out have to be dedicated to somebody.
Okay.
And so if they aren't, that will be corrected.
Well, it says there's tracks, but I'm not seeing where it says
Where they
it's
go.
for the purposes of a trail, or is it purposes of a public utility? Because that to me would be different.
Okay.
Because then if it's a public utility on someone's land, they don't necessarily have to have a trail. That's how I read it.
Okay. It'll be dedicated to both.
Okay. And then, did we discuss this in another meeting? Sorry, I'm just gonna keep
No,
going.
good, go ahead.
So since we're doing this in 2 phases, how does that trail and the road, like, how does all of the development of the roads work? Because right now, phase 1, clearly it's going to end, but if we're going to have that trail, does the trail just make a U, or what, how does that work when you do a phased approach? I'm just not familiar.
The trail and the roads will all end kind of at that phase line.
Okay.
We'll probably put in a small soft surface temporary trail connecting the 2 ends along
Okay.
that phase line.
Okay, yeah, because it's kind of a bummer if you have
You
a
get to
trail
the
to
dead end.
nowhere.
Go one way or the other.
Yeah, you're just gonna hang
You make
out.
a U.
Yeah, it's just a U. No, that's fine. I knew we had discussed that, and I wasn't sure what the resolution was if we're moving forward on this today.
Right.
And staff did have some other comments on the plat, so we'll be providing those to them in terms of, I'll just point them out there in the staff report, but, for instance, the 60-foot wide, they call them easements, are actually the roads, and those actually need to be dedicated to the town of Bayfield. They're not easements. And so I have a couple notes on the plat as well that they'll have to clean up, but that's one of those. So we'll make sure that we clean up that northern and western easements as well. But I wanted that on the record, that those need to be right away.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board? I will go ahead and open it up for public input. And go ahead, we'll keep a running tab of these questions and then we'll circle back with answers.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that the staff is concerned about the future monies of this subdivision agreement for both the road improvement and also the park. I feel, as a citizen of this town, that the town should not be held liable at all, whatsoever, for things that a developer wants to do, period. I live in that subdivision that, because of the financial crisis of 2008 and 9, the developer walked. They foreclosed. It is behooving of the town to hold these developers responsible for their financial obligations. And the fact that the past developer of Clover 7 held you hostage more or less with a threat, well, we're not going to go forward with this, it probably just lacks some creativity. So if Mustang Crossing developers are going to come forward with the money to ensure that the town has what they need, no matter what happens in the future, nobody can predict the future, then they can figure out how to recoup their money, right? So if they want to raise the costs of the lots, good luck, because as we know, we're headed towards a major recession. Things are getting more difficult, more expensive. But if everybody wants the subdivision to go off and to be successful, then it's going to take more of a concession from the developer, not the town. Let's not do it again and again. I'd like to have verification. I'd like for the town manager to tell you how the Clover 7 agreement has fallen short because costs have gone up. So how is that going to be fully covered? These are questions that I hope you're going to ask yourself, each other, and get clarification around. So thank you very much for reemphasizing that. The other thing is that the water rights, the sufficiency of the water rights. In the utility infrastructure analysis report, it references the town's historical data. I have been buried in water research and water knowledge, and the fact of the matter is if that historical data is 20 years or 50 years, it's no longer applicable. The fact of the matter is that all across the state of Colorado, municipalities, watershed managers, irrigation ditch managers, you name it, anybody who's managing water right now, they are looking to the 10-year, most recent 10 years to understand our water resource. So if this town has used a 20-year data, you better revisit that. You're giving away water that we may not have, potentially. Understand what you're agreeing to. Be very clear about what that means. That is my suggestion to you. The other thing also is, again, I'm concerned that the fact that the town didn't even have setbacks set up in its land use codes for oil and gas, this is a big deal. So in the CC&Rs, it references that the owners in section 15.12 under agricultural area and gas well, it references that owners are not permitted to enter upon the gas pad site and are responsible for their own safety in and around the gas pad and upon the dirt accessory. Well, what is that? I think that there should be a description in there of what that definition is. How close? So if you've got someone who built a house next to that oil and gas well, right, and there's an issue, are they going to say, well, if you read the CC&Rs, you know, onus is on you as the homeowner. So there should be terminology, language in here that specifically states if you're within 20 feet of the gas pad, onus on you. But if you've built a home and you're within the setbacks that the town has agreed upon, and hopefully that was 500 feet, not 250 feet. I don't know because I wasn't here for that meeting. I was out of town. But I would suggest that. The other thing also is that it references in the CC&Rs BP. My understanding is BP doesn't own that gas well anymore, that it's IVAC or ICAV and Simcoe. So that language is incorrect, or that reference is incorrect. So if I'm a homeowner and I'm buying a lot in this subdivision and I'm looking at the CC&R so I understand what I'm getting myself into, and there's no reference to the real owner, the real responsible party, that's a problem. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. So thank you very much for your time.
Jim Tenza, 351 Hilltop North Drive, Bayfield, Colorado. Yes, there are always issues with developments as you move along. I can tell you, again, having spent a lot of time at the county planning, the obstacles that we put in front of some developers meant the projects never happened, which means homes were never built, which means residents never lived there, which means you didn't have employees for businesses in the area. Do you want to protect yourself? Yes. Line of credit, bonds should cover all the transaction costs that you're talking about. But I think what you need to do in this day and age is really look for how can you cooperate with a developer to put some homes on the ground. That's what's needed here. My daughter was recently looking to buy her first home, couldn't afford it. So where do you find that? How far do you want to go? You have people working here that live in Farmington. That's a long drive. Why? Can't afford housing here. So yes, protect the town, but keep in mind you have to get a little flexible in these days. Thanks.
we have anybody else that would like to address the board?
Amanda Kehoe, 604 Magnolia Court. My home backs up to this development. I have the open field behind me right now. First statement, I'm totally for you all requiring more money coming from the developers up front because like Mr. Goldman said, history repeating itself. I was in a lot of those board meetings with Clover 7, and I don't know the details or remember them, but I know that the developer was having issues and the board was doing their best to get that development finished because of financial issues on the developer's end. So I'd be for more money up front. Next, it's more of a question, the fencing. I've been in and out of town a lot, and thank you to the developer people for the quick emails back, because I have written Ms. Sickles letters a few times and forwarded it to them, and they responded. So awesome, thank you. But my concern, now that it's going to be an open, like a access way behind my property, there's a barbed wire fence that ties my property line. And when they did the irrigation ditch a couple weeks ago, it slightly messed up my fence line. Not a big deal, fixed it with some more T-posts, but that brought up a concern that I hadn't thought of before and a couple of my neighbors didn't think of before, because they now cut Louisiana Drive. They cut through the barbed wire fence to allow the tractors into the field, and that barbed wire fence is all tethered together between our fence lines on the back of our properties. So my question is there going to be a fence put up, or are they going to re-secure that barbed wire fence? Because it's kind of intertangled in some of our, because most of us all have field fencing to that field. So that was my big main question.
Okay.
Good evening, Kathy Francio, 606 Magnolia Court. I share the same concern that Amanda does with the fencing, but I also wanted to bring up a question and concern about Louisiana Drive exiting that subdivision, because right now there's really only one stop sign, and it's on Louisiana at Hickory. There are no other stop signs. People blast through there all the time. There's always the potential for an accident, and I know it was brought up before, but I haven't really got a clear explanation of maybe what the planning is for that, because if we're putting 300 more visits or cars through that intersection, how are we going to manage that so there's not a potential for accidents or kids getting hit, because they do walk home from school that way. My other question is, phase 1 is great, but do we have an idea when phase 2 will be proposed to come through? And again, with things happening with the world, you know, people may not follow through with their, you know, phase 2, so then we just have, you know, streets that go nowhere. So I'd like to know if there's any kind of plan or timeline for that.
All right. Anybody else? Nicole, did you want to start tackling some of those questions?
And fill me in if I miss some. But Ms. Katzos talked about liability for the town if we don't have the 100% collateral. We need to revisit our data for water, which we are currently doing that. So, because she said you can't rely on the 20-year data. Water's changing so fast right now. Distance to the gas pad. So the buffer is 150 feet that was approved for the gas pad to property lines for new construction. And then there's going to be a no-build easement, which is another comment on mine for the plat, along that northern property where some of those property lines actually go into the easement. So we want to make sure it's clear that those properties cannot build fences or any type of structures within those easements. And then CC&Rs reference BP. I think that's because all the easements still reference BP because they were all established when BP. So maybe we can just clarify BP and put in parentheses ICAV because BP's still referenced on all the easements that are referenced on the plat. So somehow we need to reference both because of that reason. And then Jim's comments, I think are just kind of noted. Amanda's comments on the fence, I'm going to let the developers address the fence. I think it was originally removed because I live near that area and I'd seen some work, and it was originally removed because the ditch company went in and put their ditch within a pipe before they turned the water on. But then also there's had to be, the geotech had to go out there. They've had some other fencing on that south side for the southern agriculture lot, so that for animal fencing. And so there's been some work that's happening on the property, not excavation yet, but some of those. And so I'd like the developer to address the barbed wire fence and what their plan is for that, and whether they need to rebuild some of that if they're going to leave that Louisiana open now for construction. Let's see. And then Kathy shared concern on fencing. Louisiana Drive stop signs, I'm going to let SEH comment on that because they did do the traffic study on whether there are any warrants for those stop signs that have been requested. And then also when phase 2 will occur, I'll let them answer that as well. So I think fencing, Louisiana, any stop signs, and phase 2.
The fence along the south property line is currently being constructed. The intent is to extend that same fencing around the perimeter of the property. But not against Louisiana. The intent is to remove the barbed wire fence and allow your fencing to define that property line.
What about the properties that, like, some, like at my house, like that field fencing ties into my field, it's like a shared fence. Like, I've been trying to separate some of it, but it's like old wooden posts in the dirt with the old field fence that's in the ground, and I have added up my own field fence, but it's like, from my house down, I think a lot of neighbors, it's tied in together. And I think, because it wasn't just my fence, another neighbor, I didn't ask her permission to share her location, but her fence was messed up as well. And she had to get, a couple more T-stakes and some people out there to help her fix it and straighten it. So I don't know. That's more of.
Yeah, I don't, go ahead, Glenn. I don't know exactly each individual issue, but we would work with you to fix what you have and do what you have, or improve what you have.
Well, Glenn Moselle for Whirling That Up. And I'm glad you actually brought that to our attention, because it really wasn't called out on our earlier plats in the description of the green belt. It described it on the other three sides, but your neighborhood, the private lots, really should have a say on what that fence is. If you want a privacy fence against the green belt, then you can do something with that. So really, I think we should probably call a community meeting to describe that. If you'd like an open fence there, then that's the path we're headed. But it would be ridiculous for us to duplicate if we do an open fence and then you want a privacy fence on top of that. So we work together.
Would you contact, like, the homes direct, the property owners that all butt to it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like in a separate thing, or is it in another town hall? Sorry.
No, the intent would be to work with those specific property owners that would have their backyard adjacent to the open space.
I think the property owners would definitely, I know it's not, there's another two that aren't here tonight, but I know there's more than her and I that were concerned about that.
Absolutely. We can forge.
Oh, thank you, sir.
As far as the traffic study, we didn't look at the additional traffic, the intersections as far as warrants for stop signs. We can. I don't believe they'll be warranted. I think we could add them if it helps delineate which road has the right of way, but I don't think it's going to be warranted, so we can work with
I believe you're at a four-way intersection right there. When, are you?
At Magnolia.
Yeah, at
It's at
Magnolia. Right
Magnolia,
now it's the road to
Louisiana.
nowhere, so there's just one stop sign on Louisiana, and Hickory and Magnolia intersect right there, right? So there's no need to have another stop sign at this point, because hopefully there's no one coming from the field. So I think the concern is, I believe at least one more stop sign will be needed so that people in the new neighborhood aren't just driving through Hickory and Magnolia where they intersect without stopping. So I think that, I'm hoping that's the concern. I don't know if a four-way stop is needed, but that, I'm not an expert there. But I definitely think one additional stop sign will be needed at a four-way intersection.
Okay, or removing of one stop sign.
Oh, no, there definitely, that one stop sign must stay. Like, there's gonna need to be another one. Because we just had, there was another issue in the neighborhood where there was another one like that, there was no stop sign, and every time I was waiting for someone to run through while another car was coming, it's busy enough.
We didn't, that wasn't one of the intersections requested by the town to be reviewed, we'll look at that.
Okay.
And then Nicole, we can talk about how to do, offsetting.
Well, in this case, because there's a stop sign heading on Louisiana at Hickory and Magnolia, there is a stop sign heading east, so you're at least gonna want one heading west.
Yeah.
That you might not need to do a traffic analysis to make that determination. And then but you did look at Clover in Louisiana, and you didn't see a warrant there for a
Because
change.
of
Right
the-
now, there's one stop sign that goes into the T, but Louisiana doesn't have one, but you didn't point out that Louisiana needed one at that location. Okay, so it'd just be fixing putting that secondary one in on Louisiana at Magnolia and Hickory.
And I think there was another question.
Phase 2.
Phase two. Phase two, no one can predict the future. Glenn hopes that we can start phase two as soon as this fall. The holdups with phase two are, Army Corps of Engineers permitting. We're currently delineating wetlands and going through that permitting process. Hopefully that happens in the next 2 to 3 months. They say 90 days, sometimes it's a little quicker. And so once that gets approved, we'll finalize the impact of the Army Corps. We have to move the easement for the irrigation ditch to align with the new property line, so we have to get a new easement recorded. We're working with the Campbell lateral and the Schroeder ditch on that. And once those occur, then phase two will happen. The reason the project's phased is because of some of these issues that are taking long. So the hope is later this fall, could be next year, like some people say it could be 10, 15 years from now. It's hard to say.
Can I ask a question, or do I have to wait?
No, you can.
So we were talking about with the Clover 7, there was that left turn off of Bayfield Highway that needed to happen, and that was all kind of masterminded before. What was the impact study on the other entrance in off of Buck Highway where it intersects with Mars? Because traffic could also now just go straight down Louisiana and make that left-hand turn and then go right or left, depending on where you're going.
So what we looked at from a traffic study perspective, the reason Clover is a little different is Clover isn't stopped, so it's a through street, and when you add a bunch of left turns, that's potential for an accident with rear
Okay.
ends or side swipes when people are trying to rush through there.
Okay.
Mars and Buck Highway, excuse me, is a three-way stop, and the level of service is still level A,
Okay.
even in the future. There's just not enough cars the geometry's not perfect, but a three-way stop, cars can get through there.
Okay, and I was just thinking, because there are still going to be more cars now turning left
Correct.
into,
Yep.
to get, then go right, okay.
And the way we modeled it was half the cars from the development use that access, and the other half use Clover and Bayfield Parkway.
Okay, so an improvement was maybe necessitated to going the one way, but not the other way based on the same number of cars.
Yeah, just based on the type of intersections and the way the traffic works out.
Okay. Alright, thank you.
Kat, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I want this on public record, because if it was me and I had built a home next to this gas well, I'd want to know that questions were asked and verified. So my understanding, Nicole, this is kind of a question for you to help me out with, that if the town does not have a setback in their land use codes, then it is required or expected that the town would default to the county's setback codes.
No,
Okay.
it's the state. We're a statutory town, so we don't revert to the county, we revert to the state. And the state's statute says that new gas wells have to be a certain distance from existing residential, but new residential does not have a distance from existing gas wells. And so at some point, we are gonna, the county is looking at adopting new regs, and I've been talking to the county attorney and wanting to be involved and understanding that process, because we may look at their regs very closely and try and adopt those, and we might have to change some of it for the urban interface of Bayfield versus what the county is. But we're gonna be looking at those closely because we don't have regulations right now, and we do need to get some for future projects.
So tell me how 150 feet was made acceptable.
So 150 feet is right now what the gas well in Mesa Meadows is. And talking with the county, even though we can't use their standards, they have two levels. They have a major gas well, which is 500, and then the minor, which is the 150. And so the county even said what happened at Mesa Meadows, they were happy to see that, even with Bayfield not having standards, because it at least has a 150 buffer, which is what they have for their minor facilities. And then 500.
The LaPlata County regs in front of me.
Okay.
And it says a setback of at least 500 feet shall be required between the wellhead and the closest existing residential structure or platted building envelope, and that 150 feet would be required between the wellhead of a minor facility and the closest property line.
That's what that's what I said, yeah.
It encapsulates, or it includes both of those. So, you know, if I were someone who built a home on a lot near that gas well, and there was an incident, I would want to be able to research and find out who I can hold accountable, and who didn't, through their agreements, do the right thing to protect me as a future homeowner of that property. So I just want to make sure that it's on record that it was thoroughly considered and not just accepted as 150 feet.
Right. And what you read too was from existing as well. So again, that's something, yeah. No, but this will be new construction.
Construction.
Yeah, so again, as we're looking at oil and gas regulations for the town, I think we'll have for new construction to have a distance from gas wells too, which we don't have right now.
Just one last comment. Just because it was acceptable with the other gas well, doesn't make it acceptable for this gas well. That may have been bad decision-making then, because they didn't have the new scientific data about the harmful effects of the emittance of the gas from that gas well. It's sitting out in an open field, no big deal. Next to children, homes, pets, all kinds of things, kind of a big deal. So that's just my 2 cents. I wanted it on public record. Thank you.
So Nicole, to confirm, we are following the state's.
The state doesn't have anything either. So what we've done is we reached out to the county.
Okay.
We got an idea of what their regs were. It was all part of, so this discussion happened during the resource extraction hearing that was in front of the planning commission, and then we reiterated the last council meeting. I know that Kat was not here. Yeah, and so it was approved during the planning commission. So I don't have a lot of that data in front of me right now, but that was in the staff report at that planning commission for the resource extraction, and had what the county's regs were. State really doesn't have anything for new construction near oil and gas, and then we reiterated that we do want to adopt our own standards. But right now, working with the oil and gas facility, our company, what I was told is like even the gathering lines are not major high pressure gathering lines, so this is not one of their like big facilities. So they were happy to see that it was, at least 150 feet. Their biggest concern was like the noise, and residents complaining about the noise that are coming in. And so I know that Glenn and SEH put in some landscaping around that. It's part of their landscape plan to try and buffer some of that noise that could come off of it. But again, right now, we don't really have standards, so we're just trying to, okay, this is what we've done existing in Mesa Meadows, and just working with ICAV and the county, and just really, again, we can't revert to the county standards, and so that's how it was approved at 150. And that was at the previous meeting, so that all of that information's on that record.
Okay, do we have any further public comment or questions from the board? Okay.
Lucy Stewart at 128 North Avenue. My subdivision is one of the subdivisions that was not done right. We purchased our house in 79, and they never put the bonds, they never did anything. They built our whole subdivision as some cattail. And even up to last year, when they tried to do all those lines in there, it is such a mess. And there's nothing marked, and you don't know what you're gonna get. You don't know where your sewer comes in, you don't know where the water runs, and you really don't know what you got there. But that subdivision is completed. I still have issues with the water meter that got put in. If the guys don't drive close enough to my fence or the front of the fence, it doesn't read my meter. So, this is still from when that subdivision was not done properly. The town didn't make me do anything and just put up the house, and that's what we ended up with. And I love where I live, but it has a lot of issues. And if you're not holding those contractors to do their job, why should the town be held responsible? And the rest of us that pay the taxes, and why should we be held to that point of paying for something that they didn't do right, but they put money in their pocket and walked away as our developers did? So I really hope that you guys really question and really look at those plans, because stuff like tonight that you thought was on the plan, but it's not on the plan, just gets missed, because everybody just makes the assumption that it's there. And that's what happened in our subdivision. So please study those maps and make sure that those contractors are doing their job.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I will go ahead and close the public hearings and move on to our regular scheduled meeting. Next items are our planning commission and land use items, 5A through C on the agenda. Do we have any public input pertaining to any of those items? I think we've got that covered. We'll move on to 5A, planning commission appointments, effective June 6, 2022.
Yes, so you do have a vacancy that could be filled immediately, and you have two letters of interest, one from Cash Snooks and one from Jason Evans, and their information is in your packet on pages 54 to 58. I'm recommending that you could make a appointment of Cash Snooks to the vacant position and complete the term 2020 to 2024. You can make the next appointment, however, it cannot be effective until June 6th, which would be 30 days after the publish of the ordinance, Ordinance 478, that gave you another community member versus a ex officio.
Yes, I'd like to move forward on both of these appointments. These were very strong candidates and very gung-ho and willing to join the board, so I would entertain a motion.
Sure.
Well, looking for 2 motions on this one.
Sure, I'll make a motion to appoint Cash Schnooks to the vacant position and complete the term 2020 to 2024, effective upon approval of the Board of Trustees.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
I'd entertain a second motion to appoint Jason Evans.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Jason Evans to a new planning commission position with a term 2020 to 2024 per ordinance 478, effective June 6, 2022, and direct the planning commission to update their bylaws in the event ordinance 478 affected the bylaws.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
So I just want to remind you that this is on YouTube and Zoom, and we're also recording it for the official minutes. So I know that these microphones can be kind of intimidating, but if I can please get you to speak into them so that we can get clear record, and especially for land use issues, so that if anybody asks for this recording later on, they can clearly hear what you're saying. So thank you.
Okay, moving on to 5B. We have the 2022-08 Marlin Village PUD final plan.
So just a couple quick things on this one for clarification. So right now, this was the item about, do we want to accept the dedication of open space versus them paying the parkland and park facility impact fees. And so right now, their subdivision improvement agreement is written where they pay those impact fees. And so if you do want to accept the land dedication, then that would be an amendment to that subdivision improvement agreement too, to take the impact fees out of it and put the land dedication language in. So I just wanted to make that clear. Right now, the motions are based, the recommended motions and the findings and conditions are based off of the current subdivision improvement agreement. And so that would be a change to it.
So the only question I have there for the property that was proposed on the plat is that is there pedestrian access or some access basically off of Bayfield Parkway?
I don't know the answer to that, Mark or Linda.
Marquette, 374 County Road 520. No, there isn't any public access. The only way to actually get to it now is to go down the driveway into the open space down there by the barns.
Okay.
And cut across the wetlands.
All right,
So
I
there's
just wanted to
access
verify.
through the town's open space.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's what.
What is the board's temperature on that? What's the thoughts? I personally like the idea of the land dedication.
Yep, I'm on
Yeah.
board with the land.
I'm fine with the land dedication.
So it would be in our motion that would be added to the conditions.
Yeah, so the condition B, prior to issuance of any development permits, a subdivision improvement agreement with cost estimates shall be finalized. I would say with the addition of accepting the land dedication versus the impact fees.
All right, is anybody ready to make a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Marlin Village PUD final plan with the following findings and conditions. Finding A and B, conditions A through F, including accepting a land dedication versus impact fees.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to 5C, 2022-09 Mustang Crossing final plan.
one again, just for some clarification on those findings and conditions. The subdivision improvement agreement, which has a language about the collateral right now as 100%. So if you are willing to give them the 300,000, we need to amend that. Right now, it's written that they would get collateral for 100% of the public improvements. And then under the section 16, the special terms, the contribution towards the intersection right now is written that they would pay 10% and then the rest of the property owners would pay the 90. So if you want them to pay the 100, we need to make that change. And then the water conversion is actually, the developer would pay the whole thing and not put that 90. So there's it's written a couple different ways in here, so I just want to make that clear that if you want to allow them to pay the 10% and have the residents pay the other 90% for the water conversion fee and the intersection improvement, then we do need to make that clear so that we can put that in the subdivision improvement agreement. And then if you want to allow them to have the collateral of 300,000, we need to put that new language in here as well. But as written, staff's requesting the 100,000.
100%.
I mean, sorry, the 100%.
So, I want to have the discussion with the board here on that. I feel like personally, and you can vote either way you want, but obviously the collateral, 100%, I want to make sure the town is covered on that. I would be willing to flex on the intersection improvement and the water conversion improvement because I do feel that there is a means to an end on the payment on that. I know it may take a little longer, but I think that having those costs not incurred up front does keep those lots maybe a little more affordable, and they will get paid in the end. So I just wanted to open that up with my feelings, and you're welcome to, let's open that discussion.
I mean, I'm happy for flexibility, but does it have to be 10%, 90%? I mean, can that percentage change? I mean, they're asking for not 100%. So.
I agree with that.
I don't know. And again, this is not the same time as it was during Clover 7. So I'd like to know better, what does that look like for what we would be on the hook for if we had a different percentage line out there versus 10? Because I don't know what the 31,000 and the.
And I don't think we have those final numbers at all.
We
So.
don't, so it's a
Yeah.
percentage. We just know the Clover 7 numbers because our water engineer's not completed with that. And then we need to just understand from their engineer what their percentage of increase onto the intersection is to know what their percentage of that intersection cost would be of that 333,000. Clover 7 was 35,000. So I would say it's probably going to be more than that for the whole project.
I mean, are you looking for like a 25, 75, 50, 50?
I'd like to be able to base that decision on like some evidence, and right now I'm like 10, 90. I mean, I don't know what the difference is. Like, what are we talking?
Or if they're just okay with it currently as it is. Because, I mean, if we don't have to give, then I'd rather not.
Yeah, I would say again, the way it's written right now is the intersection improvement was kind of copied from the Clover 7, so that one does show the 10% to 90, but the water conversion did not have that language. So right now, the water conversion would be the developer pays the whole thing as written right
And
now.
when are we planning to do this intersection improvement? Like, we're waiting on money from Clover 7, and then we'd be waiting on money from this. I mean, this is an improvement to that intersection for that left turn, right? So when do we need to have that done? Like, because that one to me is the most flexible, because it's just a left turn. I mean, and there's there's studies and why it's needed, but I'm like, if I want to be flexible, that's the one I'd be flexible on.
I was just gonna say, I think that's kind of staff direction as well.
So the great benefit of basically getting our financial house in order and adding Nicole to our staff has been basically determining where these fees were coming from. It was always a mystery. We finally determined it. So your budget's going to look a little bit different, knowing that we're reserving these fees specifically for these specific purposes. And this should be on the capital improvement list, which it's not. So, that's the one thing you want to make sure of, is that we get it on the capital improvement list. Mars and Buck Highway is another one we thought that really needs to be on the capital improvement list. And as we're doing our street assessments and determining, our priorities and actually have an understanding of intersections, streets, and priorities. And, some streets may not be in good condition, but they may not need to be in good condition. I know some of the people living on the streets may not like to hear that, but you got to determine there's all kinds of things, speed, where's the, business is located, is there a school, all these things. And so those are things that we need to get straightened out. So SGM has been with us just a little over a year, and that has been our goal, to start getting these things formally and professionally put on a capital improvement list.
And I can just add to that, according to that 2018 impact study, that left turn lane was warranted with existing traffic. And that's why Clover 7's only paying their share of increased traffic. And then that's what we're asking Mustang Crossing to do, is pay their share based on the increased traffic that they're putting on there. So again, going back to what town manager said, it does need to be on the CIP, and at some point we're going to have to figure out how to fund it with the additional costs we're getting from these developments. But these developments are not going to cover the whole cost, especially because their dollars are based on 2018 numbers as well.
So I think the question is, can everybody live with the intersection improvement at 90 or 1090? Because if not, we have to address that now.
I can live with that.
Okay. And then as far as the fencing goes, that was a conversation that was had on record. Do we need to add that as a condition?
I think we should add a condition that just says the developer will work with each property owner to make sure that the removal of the existing barbed wire fence does not impact their existing fences. And if it does, that the developer will work with them to come up with a solution for fixing those fences that are impacted.
And should we also include the addition of the stop sign in the conditions?
I think we should. I think that is just kind of, it would have happened anyway, but I think we should make that a note since it's been brought up.
And just because this is being done in 2 phases, we're not going to address the gas well currently, correct?
The gas wells the dimensions have already been approved as part of their resource extraction use by review, which happened with the Planning Commission. So unless, I would lean on the town attorney to help with that, but I think that one's already been approved, and I don't know if he has anything to weigh in on that. But the Planning Commission makes that decision.
I think it was stated very succinctly by Ms. Killian that the municipality here in Bayfield has no regulations and cannot just assume that La Plata County's regulations will cover what we have not covered. And because this is new development being built around a gas well as opposed to a gas well that's coming into existing development, there is no regulation that guides us in this development. It is the developers who have placed within their CC&Rs and the plat the 150-foot buffer. That does fall in line with, it happens to fall in line with what the county designates as a buffer for a minor facility. This is not a major facility. A major facility in the county would be a 500-foot. So.
And I think the conversation at Planning Commission kind of resulted in, that's kind of buyer beware, that those lots may sit there because nobody wants to live next to it, and that's a consumer's choice. But if you buy that lot, I think you kind of take the risk of knowing what's there.
Nicole, can you point this out on the map? Or on the plat, or on something, where this 100,
point out
where the 150 is?
It's over
the
here.
150 feet? It's just there, right? Because we
Yeah.
were talking about lines and
Yeah.
Yeah, so
noise.
there's
and-
gathering lines on the north side.
Okay.
And that's where they have an easement there that's 40 feet and it kind of,
Okay.
it's not like it doesn't flow completely, it kind of moves. And so there are property lines that are going to within that easement, and so that's where we said on the plat, we want to have a no build. And I've made those red lines in their CCNRs that we want that clear, that there's certain properties that will not be able to utilize their entire property because of that easement. And that's a gathering line, and that's where they said it's not a high
High pressure.
pressure gathering line. And then the tract A, or tract X, sorry, is where they have the current oil and gas facility, or gas facility, and then you could see they put some detention and some open space to buffer those property lines, that 150 feet.
And that's not
down
what
there.
we're approving today.
No, that's
No.
already been approved by the planning commission, that was their purview.
But yes, but for what we.
It's not in plat, it's in phase 2, so it's not in phase 1 either. So
Okay.
you will see that when it comes back for phase 2.
Yes.
And I'll make sure I include the planning commission's, probably attach the staff report again and the decision so that you all can see that again. Because when phase 2 comes back, it might be a while, we might have forgotten some of that conversation.
But I'm thinking phase 2 could be 2 months down the road, it could be 2 years down the road, it's depending upon the Army Corps of Engineers. So could we have a little more research into what is a safe distance? Is it, we're guesstimating 150, because could we have our own regulation by then? Or our own land use code, or whatever it's called? We have our own, and then we can stand by that and we can go with that?
So I'm going to defer to the town attorney, but in this case, they've already received that approval. and
We can't go back from here.
Right.
I
This
mean-
one has received, so unless they let their approval lapse, so our code the preliminary plan approvals for a certain period of time, I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but if they let that lapse, then all bets are off and they gotta come back and get approval again.
Okay.
But otherwise, they've been approved to continue down that process, and so they have the right to continue with the 150 if they still meet our time frame for their preliminary
No,
plan
that's
approval.
good to know.
Yeah.
Trustee Cesaro, generally, what you're referring to is what's called a vested right. And vested rights are generally for 3 years. And in the event development doesn't occur within that 3-year period, that's what Ms. Killen's
Okay.
talking about as something having lapsed, and then they have to start back to square, from
Okay.
square. Okay?
Okay, no, that's great. Yeah.
This is not this is our discussion here.
So can I just ask a question? Because on the general dedications on number 5, the tracks A, B, D, E, F, and G, and it just says shown hereon are hereby dedicated to the Homeowners Association for Mustang Crossing for the purpose of ingress and egress for all lot owners and the future lot owners of Mustang Crossing. You know, we've had a lot of discussions on parks, trails, you know, and that has been an ongoing discussion. So I'm just wondering if it can't be a little more clear what that is for versus ingress and egress. And I know that you're going to look at more on this plat, but
Yeah, and I have comments in the staff report that reference that need to be addressed in the revised plat as well. But those need to be dedicated as right-of-way.
I realize that. Just
Can I just mention something about Sunrise Estate as a pump? Can I talk about that?
I mean, we're going to be voting on this right here. That should have been in the public input section.
Well, it's because you guys are voting on this pump and how far away the easement, the 100.
I mean, it's
that's already
it's
done.
been
We're not
done.
voting
It's
on
been
that
done.
tonight.
So,
Okay.
okay. Does the board have any other questions, comments, concerns?
No.
I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Mustang Crossing Phase 1 Final Plan Plat with the following findings and conditions. Findings A and B, conditions A through F We'll also be adding G, a discussion with the property owners about the fencing improvements, and H, an addition of a stop sign.
And some sort of addition or amendment to conclusion B.
Subdivision improvement agreement.
I don't think so. I think we were,
Just following what.
Yeah, I think they're accepting how it's written right now.
I just wanted to have the discussion. Okay, we have a motion on the table.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
So I just have a comment regarding Lori Lazari's comment about speaking up regarding the oil and gas wells. You know, keep in mind that you have a use by review process. It only goes to the Planning Commission. That they are the final approval unless they want, you know, either they're denied or there's a condition that the applicant doesn't want. So, you know, as you're getting closer to that May 31st meeting, maybe it's something you consider that you would like to see some of these use by reviews. I think there's certain things like childcare that probably does not need to come to the Board of Trustees. But if you think gas wells is really important, maybe that's something you consider in those meetings. So.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Lori, I was not trying to be harsh. I'm just trying to stick to the agenda.
It was just something that the person who lives across the street had just mentioned something about her house.
Okay. All right, we are moving on to our action agenda, items 6A through I on the agenda. Do we have any general public input pertaining to those items?
Thank you.
Oh, you're exiting, you're not talking. Okay.
We'll give you a minute.
Yeah, we'll give you a sec to get it. Thank you, everyone. All right, action item 6A, conduit lease with the Southern Ute Indian Tribe.
So Town Attorney Goldman went through this, and they would like to lease the conduit that the town has installed. I think that when we first found out that they were looking for a permit to dig again in our right-of-way, we convinced them to go this direction. So this is in our best interest, and we're satisfied with the lease, and your attorney appears to be satisfied with this actual document.
Actually, I reviewed it and was pleasantly surprised to see that it is actually a benefit to the town, and there wasn't anything to change. They really did a good job in the initial draft on behalf of the town.
Good. Okay, any questions or comments from the board? I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the conduit lease with the Southern Ute Indian Tribe and authorize Mayor Tarkington to execute the lease.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, the West Mill Street Sidewalk Project.
So the next two, 6B and 6C, there was a single bidder for these projects. The engineer's estimate on the Mill Street Sidewalk project is $219,850, and the construction bid amount was $167,547. My recommendation is you motion to award this Mill Street project to Fast Track for that bid amount.
All right, any questions?
And that's less than,
Then what the estimate was.
okay, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, please.
Yes.
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to award the West Mill Street project to Fast Track Construction for a bid amount of $167,547.
I'll second that motion.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
Same thing with the Buck Highway slurry seal.
Yes.
Any questions on that? I would entertain a motion as well.
I'd like to make a motion to award the Buck Highway Slurry Seal project to A1 chip seal for a bid amount of $146,192.50 for sections 1 and
It'll be 2, sorry.
2, 22,570 square yards.
I'll second.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Harts?
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro?
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
All in favor?
All right, resolution 521.
Okay, well, we're
Some
going to
more-
get a better system
more
for not
housekeeping here.
repeating resolution numbers. This is the second time, and hopefully it's the last time this year, right? Ladies?
All right, so this is just a simple housekeeping.
Yes.
I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 521, correcting the liaison program updated interests resolution number.
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Harts?
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro?
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
All in favor?
Resolution 522, our fats, oil, and grease policy.
I don't know if Public Works, either Jeremy or Corey would like to address this. The resolution basically is my document basically stating that we'll do kind of information education for the next 12 months, starting June 1st, or it could start immediately. But any enforcement wouldn't start until June 1st of 2023, because I do believe that we have not really had an enforcement action, not even a discussion with some of our sewer customers that could be impacting our wastewater system. The rest of it was drafted by our Public Works, so.
I think it's nice to have, I think we need this, and I'm glad we're updating this, to be honest. So, did you want to add anything, Jeremy?
Well, no, I guess just a little bit of an overview. Really, the reason that we're doing this fog control or fast oil and grease monitoring is it's a benefit to the town's collection system. So if we get a buildup of grease, there's potential for pump clogging, lift station maintenance, accelerated maintenance, and backups. And so that's why we really want to start talking to some of our business owners and restaurants and start maintaining these grease traps. And hopefully, the public education part that Katie has mentioned as well is going to be key. And let them know exactly what we do expect, that we're not out here trying to rent a ticket. We just want to make sure that we're looking at some of these moving forward. There was a previous program, but I'm not sure exactly how formal it was, and that's what we really work on trying to create here is a formal process.
Any questions?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 522 to define and implement a fats, oils, and grease program.
I'll second that motion.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Harts?
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro?
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
All in favor?
All right, resolution 523, the sewer debt repayment to Housing Development Fund.
So in your budget, you approved sending $28,000 to the Housing Development Fund instead of the general fund. It's just a repayment for the decommissioning. And our auditor recommended that we send a resolution to the Board of Trustees modifying where the destination of where that debt repayment would go.
Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Madam Mayor? I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 523 regarding the repayment of the loan to decommission the wastewater lagoons from the general fund to the Housing Development Fund.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Harts?
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro?
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
All in favor?
Request by the Pine River Rotary to use the North Softball Field for a beer garden July 4th, or 6G. This is
So from my experience here in Bayfield is that you don't typically have public hearings for special events if they're traditional, if they're just a repeat year after year. We will have, looks like 3 block parties in 2022, which is reflective of the 4 that you used to have previous years, but we canceled to the May block party. And so these are the same types of nonprofits that would ask to to run the beer garden because they do make a profit for their nonprofit. So anyway, this is basically just to use the park, which we send to the state with a letter that says that the Board of Trustees has approved use of the park.
Can I ask a question about this?
Yes?
And it might not be related, but for, I would say, the safety of those who are on the ball fields, there was not a lot of shade last year.
We're fixing that.
Okay, good. Because I was like, I don't know if that's up to
That
the
was a-
Rotary or if that's up to the town.
That
but
was a COVID rule. They didn't want people huddling in the.
Oh, no,
underneath.
I get that.
Yeah.
Many pop-up tents?
Yes,
with
we're
limits?
gonna fix that.
Okay. It just seemed like the sunburn galore.
Yes. All right. I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to permit the Pine River Valley Centennial Rotary Club to use the North Softball Field for a beer garden on July 4th, 2022, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
I'll second that motion.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
So talking about block parties, we are kind of begging nonprofits to get involved with this June event. We don't want to cancel another one. So we do have, I did get a phone call. Unfortunately, I did not get an email from Carrie Bergfalk regarding that the Pine River Centennial Rotary will share this beer garden with the Treehouse on June 16th. And so just so that we can have a motion to approve the use of Mill Street for the beer garden, that will be another letter we'll send. Of course, we are waiting for the application and the money. In fact, it looks like I've been getting emails on the July one, so hopefully we're ahead of it. But anyway.
Any questions? This is, it's a little time sensitive, to be honest, on this one, so I would entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to permit the Pine River Valley Centennial Rotary Club and Treehouse to use Mill Street for the June 16th block party beer garden on June 16th, 2022, from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, Public Works truck update.
You know, this is what town managers live for. If you want to wait, it's going to cost you more. If you do it now, it's going to cost you less. But you're going to get a ladder rack on top of the truck. So we're recommending that you allow us just another $1,900, almost $2,000, so that we can get this truck on its way.
Corey, do you have an update to that?
There's also another $850 shipping charge that came in after the fact.
So when we were, no, you're good. For the estimates that came in under earlier, had we budgeted for the full amount for the fast track and then for the other one?
I can actually.
Oh,
We actually budgeted more for the previous truck,
Mhm.
and with the new amount, it still falls on our budgeted amount of $51,593.
Perfect. Yeah, I was just thinking, I think we saved like $75,000 earlier, so, I mean, we can do the $800 shipping, I hope. Yeah.
So we need to approve plus the additional $850 for
Yes,
shipping.
so I have $51,478.80.
Okay.
Did someone write that down? 'Cause
Sorry, Kate, 51.
$51,478.80.
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the public work truck purchase order for $51,478.80.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to our discussion portion of the evening, GFL trash pickup.
So we do have JC Velasquez basically on Zoom. I did ask Jill if there was any issues that she got phone calls regarding this last Thursday's pickup. And she said there was only 3 that got missed, but the rest, what we're aware of, all the others were picked up on Thursday. And if you liked, we certainly have had 3 weeks of headaches. I did ask JC to give me a call. He's got my cell phone number, so if we have these issues, I can get something noticed. If not, I'm just running into neighbors and people complaining on Facebook, and I don't know what to tell anybody.
I mean, JC, you're on there. Can you hear us? Oh, hang on. Sorry, can you repeat that?
Coming out of here. Yeah, I was like, I can barely hear it. He said it's a little hard to hear, but he can hear.
We're having trouble hearing you. We're going to try to fix that. Do we just hold a microphone up to the computer?
Good. Can you speak, JC, and let me see if that helps?
Gosh, darn it.
Not really.
I mean, can you hear him, Nicole?
I can
Okay.
hear him.
Maybe JC, you can speak, and then Nicole can kind of recap it.
No, and it's not on your end, it's on our end. I need to, I might be able to change the microphone. Let me see. Just wants to mute everything. Go ahead and speak and I'll translate. Actually, wait, let me see. I might fix it right now. Okay, try now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Perfect. Hi, JC.
Okay, good deal.
Okay, you're good. Go ahead.
So I think
I didn't hear it. I didn't hear if there was a question. Sorry.
So I just, since you're here, and there have been a lot of complaints about trash service, and I just thought maybe you could recap or maybe just address kind of some of those issues that have been going on just for the public here.
Yes, ma'am. So over the past 3 weeks, we had a staffing issue specifically in our maintenance department. That coupled with a diesel after treatment issue that affected our entire fleet. In saying that, we essentially lost a fleet of 15 assets that were used to service customers in southern Colorado, so Durango, Bayfield, as well as in San Juan County, so Bloomfield, Farmington area. So that affected our ability to get our customer serviced, but we have since remedied the issue. We've brought techs in from our other sites for our maintenance department specifically here. Additionally, we have also received a new asset that specifically will be used to service the town. So directionally, we should be in a better position to move forward in having contingency plans in place in the form of spare units to avoid any further service disruptions.
And JC, I do appreciate you being online here because, as far as our staff is concerned and the board, I think we got we got harassed at the grocery stores and at our places of business. But I'm just wondering if there is an update to kind of some of maybe your PR issues. If you know this is going on, is there someone that could contact our town manager just so we can get something out on our Facebook and we can share it and we can kind of just get ahead of that? I think that's what we're looking for here. And I know you probably had a lot going on, but.
Yes, ma'am. I totally understand that. I've worked with Katie specifically, as she's mentioned, to, she gave me her cell phone number, et cetera, so that I can reach out to her. directly to be able to give you guys updates should that happen again.
Okay, I appreciate that.
And JC, for the customers that didn't get picked up, or like Lucy who spoke tonight, who have overfilled trash cans, will they be picked up in like extra bags that don't necessarily make it into the bin? Will they be picked up?
Yeah, so our policy typically is if customers have any overflow, I know you guys have bear issues in the town specifically, that's why you guys have bear cans. But if customers have any extras, if they'll leave them out by the side of the can, the drivers will get out and pick them up. Additionally, I do have another driver that's not necessarily in Bayfield, but kind of on the outskirts of Bayfield on Fridays. So if we could get, you know, if a resident is missed, it would be very helpful if they could call it in, you know, that Friday morning, because I do have a truck in the area that can be able to recover it that day specifically. A lot of times what we've found is sometimes people will wait until Monday or Tuesday, and at that point, all of my trucks are either over in Hermosa or down in the Farmington area.
So JC, can I just clarify that? So if a customer is missed or there is a problem on your end and trash stacked up, you will pick it up, but you're not gonna pick up bags on the regular that people just pile on the
Thank you.
side.
So that was my clarification. If you come on Thursday, there is no bag next to the can. If you come on Friday, there may be a bag next to the can. Is that what we're hearing? So we can communicate that clearly?
If it's a miss on our end, that we deliberately missed it, yes.
Okay.
We will collect any extras. We tend to try not to have residents consistently set trash on the side.
Yes, that's what I was trying to
Just
avoid
because
there.
It creates a jam basically in the routing where, you know, it's taking us longer to collect. If it's an every now and again type of situation, we don't really mind. And if it's a miss, then we'll recover it as
Okay.
well.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure there, and I hope you guys got everything cleared up. I appreciate you being on here, and I wish you the best moving forward. That's a lot to deal with.
It's definitely been a monumental challenge for me over this past 3 weeks, but I'm glad to say we're finally back on track.
Okay. Does the board have any other questions, comments? All right. Thank you, JC.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, guys.
All right. Moving on to board reports.
We had a very successful meeting at with the Pine River Seniors last Wednesday. I was super excited to be a part of that. And I'm really looking forward to our meeting with the Board of County Commissioners, the joint meeting on June 13th. We may see some of our Pine River Senior Board members at that meeting. And I think we made some I thought that it was really positive. I thought progress was made and will be made. So I was super stoked for that to be my first meeting, and they're all going to be like that. And I want to make sure that the rest of the seniors know that they're going to be very successful meetings.
Okay.
It was good. Oh, I'm also reviewing and I think you got copied on it, Ashley, the emergency operations plan for the town. I think Joe gave us all, I told him, I said, you need to give me a deadline, otherwise I'm never gonna get to this. So when I saw the email, I was like, all right, great, now I gotta get that on my calendar. Because I was reviewing the annexes. I would definitely say for those reading it, really read it, because I think we're taking another plan and trying to adapt it, which is you never recreate the wheel, but I'm finding some things in there that it's not our town name in there. Or are we a police department? Are we a marshal's office? Are we sheriff's deputies? So there's little things like that. And there's things that I'm trying to clarify based on my experience. I'm like, do we need this? Or is it just because this other, like, I don't know if this plan was from a town the same size or larger. I don't think it was smaller because they have a lot of stuff in there. And I'm like, who's doing this? So yeah, for those reviewing, I'm really looking forward to this plan coming to fruition. But just really read it. Don't skim.
Okay.
It's gonna be good.
We have our dates of interest. So we have our May 31st Joint Board of Trustees and Planning Commission work session. I think that's going to be a really productive one. I think there's a lot of opportunity for the public to be heard. Our June 7th regular board meeting. And then June 8th is the employee taco bar. Mark your calendars. And then that June 13th, 7:30 a.m., the Board of Trustees and Board of County Commissioners joint work session will be right here in this room, and we will have a breakfast
There will
menu.
probably be breakfast, so if I send you out something, please get me something back.
And then remember that our meeting for June is on a Monday, so that we can attend the CML conference. And then I think we want to talk about 4th of July.
And I think what we're going to do is staff meeting tomorrow. We're going to talk about maybe, a lot of staff work on 4th of July, and then they come back in and we have to work and then be ready for a meeting that night. So it's still up to the mayor or there's other options to decide to move that meeting to another night. We may be looking at July 7th, which will be a Thursday night instead of that Tuesday night. But anyway, we'll make sure that as soon as we kind of discuss all the intricacies of taking that day off and what's that going to do, we'll make sure that we update you as soon as we can.
And there is also the discussion of just kind of depending on what is coming at us, we may cancel that meeting, but I don't want to leave anybody hanging on any time-sensitive decisions. So I think we'll figure that out.
Last year when we had this event, I feel like it was Becky did a lot, and then Beth also assisted. Does
Yeah.
Becky need more assistance?
Oh, yeah. We
Okay.
always need more assistance and more volunteers. We'll even give you a vest.
Okay. I'm all about the vest.
By the end of 4th of July, I think my feet were done.
Yeah,
So-
it's a long day for
I
staff.
think maybe we need to solicit more. I mean, I'd be happy to help, but I think we might want to see if we can solicit more help. I just felt like it was a lot of work for one. I mean, it's a big
She
event.
used to do it all by herself. How she did it all by herself
Yeah.
is beyond
I don't
me.
think she has to do it by
No,
herself.
she should. I'll tell her you said that.
Yeah, she'll appreciate it because it's also her anniversary that day, so she hates 4th of July. But, JC, you have a comment?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I forgot to mention earlier. GFL does have a Facebook for our site specifically. If customers need to reach us, they can message that Facebook page. It's just GFL Environmental, Bloomfield, New Mexico. They can get a hold of us. It also has my contact info personally, if there's any issues.
Oh, you're brave.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it would be nice. I think we might post that, just an update for our residents.
Yeah. And I actually have went to
Sorry, I
your,
forgot to mention that
I have
earlier.
went to your Facebook page just to find information when I couldn't get a response back, and there was just nothing about Bayfield. So anyway, it's good to know.
Okay.
Just volunteering for 4th of July.
All right. If there are no further questions, comments, I will adjourn this meeting. It is 8:49.